one area that he's suggesting that we work on is there may be some money this year for excuse me, some money for trails. And so, we're talking down there by the canal and basically from 6 South to Main Street, there's about a half a mile right there that can be, needs to be improved. And that might be something we might want to work with you, Zach, and work with Chris and some of the others to get some budgets put together so we can give them. But he feels really good about that. So there's something we can maybe do there.
Because that will be completed from 6 South to 12 South too. With
Yeah. Right now it's
development.
right.
Don't know the name.
Well, we would be
putting
responsible.
that in,
We'd be
right.
more responsible for the 6 South to the Main Street area, and the others would be provided by developers. But yeah.
Well, and,
Okay.
and Bill and I have talked about this, but we know we have that one piece of property right there on
Right.
6 South
Yeah.
that will pull the
And that
whole
could be
trail
part.
together. and
That
we-
could be part of that grant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
We
think,
don't like to talk about specific properties in public meeting because then the price just goes up. So we can talk offline
one by
further.
10th North.
We're going to talk further offline.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. Is that all you got? Thank you, Zach. Carl, this is your big debut here.
Okay.
Carl, for those that don't know, he is our Assistant Public Works Director, filling the role until we all know when Paul's going to retire. He's reminded us about that. So fill us in.
Okay,
What you got?
I have 4 items to report on that are things I know about, so bear with me if you want to know other things and I don't know those things quite yet. Just some project updates. Our aquifer storage and recovery project where we're gonna inject pump water from our springs up to the well up there on the hill. We are in the permitting process for that. We had a good meeting last week with state agencies that will need to get permitted through. And we're tracking very well. It's a slow process though. We believe that we will have approval around October, and that'll be the beginning of our 3-year pilot study. And I'm pleased that we're doing a pilot study because I think that'll give us an opportunity to draw some conclusions and learn important information about possibly expanding that in the future. So that's good. We should hold a pre-construction meeting within the next 2 weeks for our 14-inch pipeline there in Deweyville. And so hopefully by next council meeting, we'll have had that. We can get started in earnest. We also met with the engineers that are designing the water treatment plant. And the way that we're doing that is the equipment, the aeration basins and things like that we're gonna put in the design. We're having contractors propose on design for that and bidding that ahead of time. It'll save us money, and it will also allow the design process to be more complete. We should have be completed with that process and have updated design for that in May, and then following that we can put it out to bid for construction. Any questions on those projects yet?
Excited about the ASR. We thought we kind of lost that, but they were willing to extend it, but they just didn't understand all the red tape and everything that we had to go through to get to this point.
Yeah.
I think they changed the game, or changed it right about in the middle, didn't they? I thought we was
Well,
we was ready to start digging, and then all of a sudden, no, you got a permit and
there's a lot of permitting.
a lot of permitting to pump water back in the ground.
And that was the nice thing about the meeting that we just held. We kind of gathered all the parties together and met and said, this is our understanding, this is the way we intend to proceed. Does that pass your sniff test? Oh, yeah, okay. So and there's some things that we're gonna be doing in the next several months between now and October that will allow us to have all the permitting that we need.
Very good.
And then I apologize to have to talk about myself, but I will become what they call the DRC, or the direct responsible charge, for our water and wastewater permitting. I take that very seriously. That is a huge responsibility, to be the direct responsible charge for a city like Tremont, and have all of the compliance be on that person's shoulders. Pleased to let the council know that I have obtained 2 of the 3 certifications needed so far, which it's been a little crazy, but I've put a lot of effort into obtaining those certifications, and hope to obtain the 3rd one down in St. George at the end of this month. So
Congratulations on that. Great job.
thank you. Yeah, it's been good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, let's see. Andy, do you have anything for us?
Just a couple things real quick. First of all, I just wanted to thank everybody that came out to our pushing ceremony last Friday. It was really good. We had a really good turnout, especially considering that the weather was a little threatening at the time. It held off for us, thankfully, and we feel that it went really well and that we had a pretty good turnout. So we will be out quite a bit doing some training with the engine, with a new vehicle that's totally configured different than anything that we have now or have had in the past. With some equipment, we just need to kind of figure out what's going to work out best for as far as hose loads, those types of things. So you'll see us out there doing some trainings, whether it's just outside the station on the pad or out at the fairgrounds is usually a good open area to go to. But
Cemetery. They were
the
down the
cemetery for
cemetery
flowing water
today. We
too.
love them to
They
water the
usually like us to do
cemetery.
that. So, but you'll see us around here in the next little while doing that. We usually are out and about doing that anyways, but probably a little bit more so in the next coming weeks to kind of figure out what we want to do. Otherwise, we're just kind of moving forward as normal. Very optimistic about the future and hopeful for what we have to come. The next couple days, sorry, I keep thinking it's Wednesday tonight. Thursday and Friday, we do have, we are holding mental health check-ins for our firefighters and police officers. That's something that we like to do at least annually, if not biannually, to try and give them and their families opportunities to reach out to therapists or counselors to be able to go over lots. We see and deal with a lot of really horrible things, and unfortunately we take it home to our families because it's just how it is. And so it does affect not only our members but also their families as well. So this is something that a lot of organizations throughout the country, throughout the world it's becoming very prominent, and it seems to help a lot with giving them an opportunity to reach out to somebody without having to try and find a phone call number to go to. You see the EAP flyers all over the stations, but people don't really know who to reach out to, or when they call, it's an automated system and you have to wait for it and go through. So it just gives them a more direct line and opens that opportunity to just go directly in, and if they want to talk about something, they can get in touch with the therapist to get more help if they need to, or if it's just something that they want to kind of vent about. So we scheduled that a few weeks ago, and then with everything that's happened in the past several days, we figured that it was, I guess, meant to be. But otherwise, we are looking forward to that, and that's about all I've got.
Any questions for Andy?
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy, for everything you do. Thanks for agreeing to help us out with the interim. Let's see, Chief, you have anything for us?
So I just have a couple things real quick. First thing the mayor wanted me to address, there is an issue at the schools right now. It's really 5 individuals that are causing most of the problems. We have met with the school. We're trying to sort it out. Our philosophy and kind of how the law works with juveniles is when they're at school, we want to address at the lowest level possible. So we'd like the school to take care of those problems. We did have a meeting with them today. They are open to fixing those issues. We made some recommendations, and now the ball's kind of in their court. In the meantime, we'll have extra officers over there just to kind of keep the peace. And we're also working with the juvenile judge to create a long-term solution. So I won't go into details because they're juveniles, but that's being addressed. So if you guys have heard about that, just know we're on top of it. We're taking care of it. The other thing, I just want to give Andy a shout out. Like, peer support, I can't emphasize how important it is, and we appreciate your support in that. You guys actually put up the funding for that last year, and it's made a huge impact. It's just good for them to have a resource to address those issues, because if they aren't addressed, they'll fester, and it creates a lot more problems. If they're happy at home and they're able to get stuff off their chests, we get the best of them at work, and it's just greater for our community as well. So let's see what else we got. I've been working with the fire department. I volunteered to help them with their administrative stuff, managing budget. We went through their budget. It's actually looking pretty good. A couple things we got to fix, but just minor things. And yeah, I'm fully available to you guys if you need me. One other thing, and this I'm actually super excited about. I went ahead and I pulled stats for the last couple of years. We just passed these over, Bill. And I'll be honest, I didn't expect the results to be as good as they are. So on the front, you'll just see the chart. It goes by year from 2020, 2021, 22, 23, and 24. You can see the different crimes we've had. I tried to focus on the major issues that go on what's called a UCR, and that's the Uniform Crime Report, and that's stats reported to the FBI. We don't have the technology to analyze these in a computer, which I really miss right now, but I had to do this manually, but it's okay because it was totally worth it. Now, what you'll see, the blue one is kind of where I came in. We kind of, as a city, and this is both cities, Tremont and Garland, had an incline, and we were heading in almost an upward on most of these. What we want to see, especially as a city population grows, is we just want stability. Like, if in a perfect world, we can keep these lines perfectly straight, and that shows that even though our population's going up, we're in control of our crime. We've actually outperformed that. If you flip that page, you're going to see a comparison, and just for ease, since we were kind of in a changing time, I left out 2022. But if you compare the 2020, 2021 compared to our 23 and 24, you'll see that even though our population on average increased around 6,000, we've seen pretty significant reductions in crime. So narcotics was reduced by 59%. The burglary went down by 54%. Our sex crimes went down by 23%. Thefts went down by 24%. Everything else was stable. So the biggest thing is to show you our progress. The other things I'm pretty proud of is our search warrants. We actually picked that up by a significant amount, and I attribute a lot of these stats being lowered because we've been proactive in addressing these issues. We're not just responding anymore, and that went up by 166%. Community policing went up 127%. So overall, it's kind of showing you the ROI that you've gotten in the police department. And the reality is, I'm not going to take credit for this. You guys were a huge part of this because you gave us what we needed to be successful. So more than anything, I think the council gets the credit. The guys did all the work out there, but you guys made it possible for us to have the guys we need to take care of the problems. So my hope is we can continue to see those trends, or at the very least see some stability as we move forward and the population keeps growing. Is there any questions about any of this stuff? Go ahead.
I do, yeah. What is community policing?
So that would be like engaging with the community. A big problem a lot of cities have, especially ones with high crime, is there's a thing called the code of the street, and it's actually been studied. But basically, they won't share information with the police, and they get labeled as snitches, things like that. The way you avoid that whole cultural problem is by engaging with the community. So that could be, maybe it's a slow day, we're not getting a lot of calls, and we see somebody who needs help with something, we stop and we just small talk and ask, do you guys have any problems here? Sometimes it's visiting local businesses, the lemonade stands, just any kind of positive interaction between our police department and our community. And I'll be honest, Lyle, we get a lot of tips on some problems from that. Just from that, because it creates trust, and then they feel comfortable communicating. We build those relationships, and maybe they tell us about a neighbor that's been selling drugs for the last 5 years. And next thing you know, we're able to take care of that problem. So I think it's fundamental for any police department to engage with their community. The sad reality, and Andy kind of talked about this, we see people on their worst days. It's up to us to go out and engage and see them, so they get to interact with us in a positive way. I always joke with the mayor and Bill, whenever I call them, it's a bad thing because something bad happened. So it's nice to give back some positive feedback every now and then. So it's similar with our officers. Go ahead, Brett.
I find it interesting that your numbers went down.
Yeah, me too.
With the increased warrants and the increased police. I would have thought they would have gone up just because we're finding more crime and we're
Aggressive.
aggressive at it. So
Yeah, I was equally surprised and pleasantly surprised. Another thing we've became a part of is the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, and we've seen a pretty good influx. And so my assumption was the same as yours, Brett. As we're getting out, we're addressing these problems, we're going to see more. But the other part of that is, if I'll give the drug scenario as an example. If that person's selling drugs in our community and we're able to do a search warrant on their house and maybe they go to prison or jail, now there's no longer a supplier here, so you get less people coming here to buy drugs, and therefore you see a marked improvement. And that's just called evidence-based policing. So by addressing these proactively rather than just responding, we're taking care of the underlying issue and creating a long-term solution to the problem. Which is great. And we'll keep doing that. I just want to thank you all for your support, because it really does make a difference, and we can see it statistically.
So with these goals that we're trying on,
Yeah,
is there like one or two really good indicators as to if we're winning or losing in the police department? You've got a couple of them here that are really nice, and I don't know if there's. Anyway, I feel we'll work with some ideas on that, so.
yeah, I'm happy to do
Check
it.
those into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's obviously, retention and keeping people around and getting professionals here
Right.
is huge. And this is a result of that. But any police department worth a grain of salt would be super excited about this. It defies what most of the academics will teach on crime. And it's very, I mean, you can look it up if you're interested, but very much population growth is correlated with crime growth. And if we can do the opposite, we're doing something exceptional. So,
Is this shareable data?
yeah, I think it.
Public?
Yeah, absolutely. Now,
This is public, obviously.
I mean, I'm just going to take full ownership. Some of the figures, doing it manually. I'm a human being. I may have typed something in wrong. I checked them twice, but still. But I stand behind them. I think they're pretty accurate, and I'd be happy to.
The reason I ask, I mean, perception's reality, right? I heard somebody the other day who was involved in an issue, and this place is not safe anymore. But
Yeah,
the data doesn't lie.
Sure.
I think it'd be incredible to tell that story, especially through Blackthorn Media. That'd be
Another podcast.
it's another great one. It really is, because again, the data doesn't lie.
yeah, and I'm happy to work with you on that, or whoever, because I agree. I think being transparent with the public is fundamental, and showing them, I know.
That's worth bragging.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm
That's
super
awesome.
excited about it, and the guys and gals are also super excited. So, aside from that, some exciting things going on with our investigation unit. We're actually going through all of our cold cases that don't have a statute of limitations. Serious crimes, like aggravated assault to some degree. We don't have any murders or anything, which is great. And we do have some like rape cases and things like that. We've been working with them. We're using DNA. Some of these cases just weren't solved because they didn't have that technology and that ability. And we're already on track to solve a couple of those. So I'll keep you posted, but it's pretty great. Bringing some of these offenders that may have thought they got away with it to justice is super satisfying. So overall, super proud of my guys and gals, and yeah, we'll keep doing what we can do.
Did you get your office back open? Did you get your hired?
Yeah, we have her hired. We are training. It takes a little time. It's like drinking through a fire hose, as they say. She's going to be doing evidence, records, administrative stuff. So she's busy. But yeah, our hours are now open more frequently, but not all the time. And as soon as we can hammer them in and we get them squared away, we'll get that posted so people know. But we're trying to open up office. It's just a little hectic. Cool. Any questions? Go ahead.
One more, this is off subject.
Yeah, sure.
But that little 26,124, I gotta find out where you got that number.
Yeah, so what I did is I took I just Googled it to see what the population was according to the census. I just took the 2 years, divided them by 2 to create some type of average, and compared the two. I don't know if that's accurate. I know the mayor is really good at keeping the stats on the population. And if you have better numbers, I'd love to add them in.
Well, yeah, that seems a little bit high there, but
But you got Garland in there too.
you got Garland in there in the
Yeah.
surrounding area, so that's something that will have to be looked at.
Yeah, and I think your numbers are generally more accurate. I remember working with you on the
Yeah.
population stuff, so,
Sure.
yeah,
We can get together on that.
cool.
Before we post
Part of
it,
that too.
Yeah, let's square it away before we post anything.
Is our magic number.
Yeah, yeah, that's why I've said it's
Get
the
that.
surrounding area.
Yeah, we've been at like 22, 23, we're not quite there. We can't get franchises to come into the area until our population hits 25.
Yeah. Well, and it may be counting some of the surrounding areas. I know we service them a lot and help them a lot, so. But yeah, anything for me or the police department?
For Chief?
keep up the
Thank you,
work.
thank you for
Aye.
everything you're doing,
Yeah, thank you, guys.
keeping us safe. Thank you. All right, council, council reports. Let's see. Bo, you want to start on your end?
Yeah, I am. Zach, as I listen to you talk about Parks and Rec, I think economic development and Parks and Rec absolutely go hand in hand. You bring in tournaments, we were talking about it. You go over to Logan, Cache Valley on a Saturday morning, and you're going to see loads of cars in a line headed over the mountain, right? And I'd love to see a lot of that come back. And I think because then they're going to eat lunch here. So chicken or the egg, there's a lot to do there. Just know that, from an economic development standpoint, I think it's a critical component and will continue to be, a key part of that. So we got to be focusing on Parks and Rec facilities there. And then, I think that's it
Blair?
for now.
I'm the same way. I spend Saturdays almost all day and go to ball games, and it's all teams from here. And I know it's not junior jazz, it's the next level, but then I have to buy my grandkids stuff, and I got to do it over there, and it's easier here. Can make a sandwich at the house.
You want to eat it hot here, not
Yeah.
over there.
But another thing off the last couple of weeks have been pretty rough on all of us, but maybe I just commend the mayor and Bill for how they handled all the problems. So I appreciate that. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
Amen to what Blair just said. I'm going in a different direction. I'm sure probably within the next time we meet, we're going to be talking about Main Street and the park and that type of stuff. Jeff, how are we doing, Bill, with meeting with UDOT and with gathering these numbers so that we know how much it's going to cost for what we want to do down Main Street, what we want to do with the park, so we can prioritize? How are we doing with those numbers?
Interesting you should ask. Jeff actually just put together this afternoon a Gantt chart, learned a new skill on how to do that. So Jeff, you want to talk about potential scheduling and I know you don't want to talk about it. Will you do it anyway, please? Sure. Thanks.
I was able to talk to Chris while I was down at the city engineers conference this past week. His survey team should be getting out soon. Sam, Chris, and I believe that our first design deadline package will be the end of next month by the time they get the survey done and processed and the line work done. So my hope is that City Council and UDOT will be able to see it in April, and then we'll be able to move into further design. If my timeline is correct, we should have all of the design done by about the end of October.
Okay,
With continual updates along the way for you guys.
how is UDOT in all this?
Off the meeting we had with UDOT, they were very open, but I presume from experience with them that their comments and feedback will become more detailed and more minute as the further it goes on. They're normally very accepting at the 30,000 feet level, and by the time you're down to where the curb and gutter is, they have extreme amount of detail and look through. So I expect they'll have good feedback, but I also expect that their feedback will extend how long the design period takes.
So when we met with them 3 or 4 months ago, and then again 6 weeks ago, they were amenable to the concepts and really rough, sketchy kind of ideas. Sketchy is the wrong word. That has a negative.
Sketchy isn't a preliminary concept sketch, and less of
Just
sketchy
very
as in like.
loose conceptual ideas. They seemed amenable to them, and so we're feeling positive and like we're headed the right direction. This was based on the concepts that we brought to them were based on input and discussions that we had with the Main Street Committee. And so we're feeling really confident that we're moving in the right direction.
Good. As soon as we match what the costs are up with how much money we've got, the decisions are going to be really easy.
That's why it's one of the reasons why we don't want to think about budget right now. I mean, we kind of have it in the back of our minds, but we're making decisions on how we want it to look, and we can phase in and do bid alternates and things to get maybe over the course of several years where we want to be ultimately with the thing.
Yeah, more options, the better.
Prioritize.
Exactly. So the priority is obviously going to be safety, sidewalk replacement, and lights. Those are really low hanging fruit for safety kinds of concerns. And then the pavement treatments and other kind of fun things are maybe something that we could hold off on pending how much it's going to cost.
Okay.
And while Jeff's here, can I ask one other question? What about like the facade grant standards? How far out is that from us being able to kind of just conceptualize that and put a brand to Main Street? Because I think it goes hand in hand with that project.
I think it's going to speed up. We just started on it. Sam has brought in one of his coworkers named Mark, who has been helping write the code. And since Mark's joined on, we've been able to produce a lot more. Bill and I have already both reviewed it, and we'll be able to send comments back. So that is going to start progressing on a week-by-week basis because of the extra manpower brought into it.
Cool.
With that being said, I'm hopeful that we could have something in place by July with just the amount of detail that goes into it.
One of the things that we're looking at is adopting the form-based code as a policy guideline handbook that is in the ordinance. What we'll do is we'll say, please refer to this handbook rather than put everything dealing with form-based code into the code itself. I've seen it done. In fact, in Weber County, they had everything in the code itself, and it becomes really cumbersome because the guidelines have to be really, really strict, and there's not a lot of flexibility. And then if you ever needed to amend it or change it or anything, you have to go through the whole public hearing process. Whereas if it's just a policy guideline handbook rather than in the code, there's some flexibility worked into that. And so we're trying to make sure that all of the T's are crossed and I's are dotted in the policy handbook, but then the code itself will really just be a small section that we adopt, giving it the teeth that it needs.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
The only thing I got is Councilman Lewis had a great idea, and I'm going to give him 100% credit for this, okay? But as we move forward with our economic development, and because of some moves we made in our consent agenda today, I don't want to lose our economic development in the future. I would like to suggest we put together a steering committee there's some great business people in our community that could fill that committee and really start to move us along economically. And so I think it was a great idea, and I would like us to get going on that sooner than later. And so we can talk a little bit more later. And
Which also gives them ownership in what we're doing, you know, and brings them in on and they're usually well connected and have a network of opportunities that they might not be ceasing, but they would if there was some ownership there on the
Great idea.
project.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, I'm all for it. And thank you
Thanks, Brett.
for all
I
that's
have
going
nothing.
on.
I'm good.
All right. You know, I kind of watched the water pretty close for quite a while here. And I thought I'd run Brett brought up a pretty good question in our pillars and goals and that kind of thing. And one of the things he was kind of suggesting is maybe we will look at our efficiency. Clearly we're using less culinary water with the advent of secondary. And so I went back and I looked at some information. And so what I did was, and I can't see it, but I'll just tell you about it. Went back to 2020 and, I looked at our culinary use per household, per ERU. And then compared it to 2024, we're using about 12.5% less water per household, culinary water, which would be expected because we're going to secondary and all this kind of thing. So that was sort of expected. What wasn't expected was if we start looking at the total water use. So we are becoming more efficient. We are starting to people are more careful with their water. So if we look at 2020 to 2024, if we look at total water use, we're using about 5.5% less water per household than we were back in 2020. So we are sort of going in the right direction, and I think this is something we need to kind of focus on a little bit. I mentioned, you don't need to bring it up. I mentioned that about the grant. We've been talking about the grant and that kind of thing, working with the ARCOG people. They are extending that grant to November, so we're able to get started on that project, hopefully here in the next little while. One of the changes was to do that sign that you're talking about, and they approved that. So anyway, I just want to tell everybody, the employees, council, just how much you are appreciated and for everything we're doing. I think we're working together really well. Appreciate our directors, the different departments. You guys are great, and we appreciate you, and I think we've got great things in store for us. Shout out to Brett. Thank you for putting those pillars together and those goals and everything, and so we're looking forward to moving on with that. And with that, council, I have one more motion.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second it.
Motion by Brett and second by Lyle. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. Aye, aye, aye. Thanks, everybody.